Hi, everybody. Welcome to this webinar in Caring.com's Digital Marketing Academy. Today's session is focused on optimizing your senior care website to convert more visitors into prospects and customers. I'm Denise Grob, a marketing director here at Caring.com, and we have a range of valuable information to cover, so let's go ahead and get started. Before we do, we'll have a little bit of housekeeping. This is a one-way webcast where only the presenters can speak. And we have Bailey Beacon of Smash and Andy Crespedina of Orbit Media here, and they will soon be speaking. But you can ask questions throughout the entire presentation. In the upper right corner of your screen, you'll see a question box that you should be able to ask questions there. We're going to have a Q&A at the end of the session, and we'll answer your questions. If we don't get to all of the questions, we'll answer them afterwards. One common question we get is, will the session recording and slides be made available afterwards? The answer is yes. We will have the slides and recording available for you afterwards, so you can stay focused on listening and watching. You don't have to furiously take notes. Let's move this slide forward here. Okay, this is a free webinar, but you do have to listen to this brief commercial about Caring.com as the price of admission. Hi, one of our speakers is moving their phone. If you could just go ahead and mute yourself just temporarily. Thank you. We have 3 million visitors using our site Senior Care Resources every month. These are families and older adults who are turning to us for caregiving information, referral, and support. They also come to us for reviews about senior care providers. In fact, we are the largest senior care review site with about 150,000 consumer reviews posted today and thousands that we add every month from family caregivers and older adults. We also have thousands of original articles across all caregiving and elder care topics, and we host dozens of online support groups for family caregivers. And Caring.com is owned by Bankrate, which is part of a powerful network of websites dedicated to supporting people making complex financial decisions. Today's webinar is presented in collaboration with Smash Senior Care Marketing Sales Summit happening in Chicago in October. We worked closely with Smash Managing Director Bailey Beacon in planning this session, and she's here to introduce today's featured presenter. Take it away, Bailey.
Thank you so much, Denise. My name's Bailey Beacon. As Denise mentioned, I'm Managing Director of the Senior Care Marketing and Sales Summit. Very excited to have one of our long-term speakers presenting his information today. He's been with us for going on 4 years, and he's truly one of our favorites, as he is for all the participants at Smash. Andy is co-founder and strategic director of Orbit Media, an award-winning web design company that has provided web strategy and advice to literally thousands of businesses over the last 15 years. As both a top-rated speaker at national marketing conferences and as a writer on the Orbit blog, Andy's dedicated himself to the teaching of marketing. He's written hundreds of articles for dozens of blogs, media websites, and publications like Forbes, Entrepreneur, and Inc. magazine. He's also the author of Content Chemistry, the illustrated handbook for content marketing. And lastly, he is a nationally known speaker, and he's dedicated himself, as I mentioned before, to teaching marketing. And from what I've seen at his last 4 years at Smash, I truly believe that teaching is, in fact, his true passion. So, like Denise said, a quick price of admission is about Smash. We hope after this presentation, you'll want to know more about it. Andy's going to be presenting a 2.5-hour workshop, much deeper dive on what he's talking about today. So we hope you'll think about joining us. The Senior Care Marketing and Sales Summit brings together authors, experts, and leading practitioners like Andy, together with over 250 senior care sales and marketing strategists from across the continuum. It's what makes Smash so unique and valuable to every participant every year. There will be more information and great discounts to attend Smash in October at the end of the webinar. So with that, I know it's onto the agenda, and thank you, Denise.
No problem. Thank you, Bailey. We have a lot that we're going to be covering today, and I'm so excited. Andy is a true expert, as Bailey noted, and as you will soon hear. He's going to start with how to answer the questions that trigger action, Then he's going to move on to how powerful evidence you need to add that to your website, and using emotion and reason to compel visitors to act, and why most calls to action on websites don't get clicked. Then we're going to cover Q&A, so you can submit them during the session as we go slide by slide, or you can wait until the end. Either way, we want your questions and we hope you ask them. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and change presenter mode over to Andy, and he's going to go ahead and run this from his machine. Andy?
Excellent. I'm right here. Thanks, Denise.
No problem.
Okay, so pulling this up. I love this topic, I confess. I'm very interested in this because so many of us are just on so many websites every day, and we either act or we don't. We are inspired to take action or we're not. And this session really gets into the little things that make the difference between that visitor converting and becoming a lead, or all of us on all websites, right? This is kind of a universal topic in a way, because we are all constantly on pages and looking at content and trying to get our questions answered. So I'm honored to be here. I'm thrilled to be teaching this. It's just so interesting to me, the little things that can make a big difference. We want this to be practical for you. So thank you, Denise, and thank you, Bailey, for the opportunity. And I'm happy to just make this as practical and useful for everyone as we can. So I want to start with some research by this guy. For years, I called him Jacob Nielsen. He's Danish. I think his name is actually Jakob Nielsen, but he's very famous for doing research on websites and user experience. And he repurposed or did some comparison on some study he did in 2004 by redoing it in 2016 to see if, from a sample of websites and a sample of users, given a sample of tasks, how easy these sites are to use, how successful these visitors are. And what he found is websites have gotten better. They've gotten a bit better. They're still not great, right? The visitors' task success rate on websites when he studied was only still 82%. And so he kind of jokingly extrapolates that out into the future and concludes that at this rate of improvement, the web will be good by the year 2030. So there's a long way to go. But the most insightful piece of this that I want to remind you guys and point out is that to get this to work, for there to be success where everything for your visitors is easy, for there to be success where the visitors act in ways that lead to profitable outcomes for us in our businesses, we need to solve that one big main problem that websites tend to face, which is findability. The number one reason for user failure on websites is simply findability. People can't find what they're looking for. That's the main reason why people fail, why websites fail, why businesses don't get the lead and the visitor didn't take an action. So we're going to address that today. We're going to be talking about that, talking about that because that's one of the two most important numbers in marketing. There are two things that matter most: the total number of visitors, that's traffic, and the conversion rate, or the percentage of people who took action, right? That's conversion. So it's traffic times the conversion rate that equals success. Therefore, every action we take in digital marketing should be totally focused on impacting one of those two numbers, or why did we do it? Traffic, sometimes about search traffic, people looking for you, that's frequently search engine optimization. But the conversion rate half is conversion rate optimization. So SEO plus CRO, these are the two things that make the biggest difference. Bailey knows this about me. I'm a new dad. I've got a 15-month-old. Here he is as a little guy. His name is Eli. He's learning to walk right now. I'm only partly kidding. I'm only partly kidding when I say that I want this kid to be good at two things in life: SEO and CRO, because he is going to be just fine. He's gonna hit all of. He's gonna have no problems at all if he can both attract visitors and compel them to act. And he's doing great. He's well on his way. Look, he's already learning how to use analytics. He's making decisions based on data. He's brilliant. That's a joke slide. He tried to eat that book in the next picture. So we have two kinds of visitors. There's people who come to our sites because they need help. They know what they need and they're trying to take action. They're ready to make a decision. They're ready to become a lead. They're ready to act. But then there's many, many more visitors, 8 times as many visitors according to some studies, who are just looking for information. They're not searching for the transactional key phrase. They're searching for the research-related key phrase. They're not searching for $signs. They're searching for question marks. So there's really two kinds of visitors to our websites who arrive after searching for two kinds of phrases, and they land on two kinds of pages. They land on the products and service pages, right? The page is about what we do. The page is about our services. It's the non-medical in-home care. It's the senior living site. It's the community page. It's the page that talks about what we do and as a business. And then there's all of the content marketing content, all of the helpful, useful stuff, the mini version of Wikipedia for our industry, that kind of, the magazine that we publish in a way, right? All the stuff that answers all the other questions that are not related to the transaction or not trying to get the visitor to buy or to become a lead. So these pages, talking about these pages is one of the fastest way to help a website owner get better results, because these people come to the site with commercial intent. They're starting at the bottom of the funnel, so to speak. They're ready to take action. They found you because they started at your homepage, or they searched for that phrase because they know that they need to find help, right? They're ready to take action. They sort of like they have their wallet out. So there's two kinds of visitors and two kinds of phrases. They land on two kinds of pages and have two different kinds of conversions. We're not trying to get these people to subscribe to a newsletter. We're trying to get them to fill out the form and speak to an associate. So that might be just becoming a lead, right? Or maybe they're scheduling a visit to come in and visit. Or maybe they're going to attend an event that we're hosting in our space, right? Or maybe we just want them to subscribe to the newsletter, which is not a bad thing at all, right? To learn more about in-home care, whatever our topics are. Or job candidates, by the way, right? Like I work with clients who actually need to fill the candidate funnel. And that's also a type of conversion, every bit as important in some industries. So here is the framework. I'm going to walk you through how to take your visitors from their question, right? Their answer to their question to action. Our job is to make the motivation stronger than the friction. Or rather, you could say, to make the answers more powerful and visible than the uncertainty. That's what gets this little person to move over here to the right and complete their goal, right? And complete our goal for them. So we want to make this arrow bigger and stronger and make this arrow smaller and weaker. They have a context. There's some true story in the lives of each of your visitors that brought them to that page. And that story tells you their context, right? They have some questions. They need some help. They're wondering. They're hoping. They're afraid. They have a need. So our job now, think of it this way. Our job is to just answer their questions, support those answers with evidence, and then give them clear, specific calls to action. So this presentation, for the rest of this presentation, I'm going to go through this format from answers to evidence to action. Now, to be specific, that's kind of vague. It's a framework we'll all understand together in a second, but to make it specific, I'm going to show you how this might look in a senior housing website. Visitor comes to the page. Yeah, the page is the basic information is there, but they have a specific concern. Can I bring my dog? The answer to that question, if it's explicit, it makes the visitor more likely to act. If the answer is not there, they're less likely to act, right? They're not going to pick up the phone and say, can I bring my dog? They might just go look for a different community that answers their question. Yes, we are pet friendly. Now, it's not enough to just supply answers. We want to give evidence to support the answer. Here's an example of a testimonial. Buster loves his new friends. Look, his tail's wagging, he's happy, he likes his new home, right? I can not only bring my dog, but other people have brought their dogs, and those dogs are happy. Now, the action can also be contextual. Discuss, maybe this is a page about that, about pets. Discuss pet relocation with an associate. It's not just contact us. Contact us is not a call to action. Discuss pet relocation with an associate. Wow, okay, well, I'm not spending money yet, I'm just starting a conversation. Let's look at another example. This one's for non-medical home care. A lot of our attendees we know are in home care. Question, common question. Can you help mom with her meals? We know that one of the major visitors to these pages are the adult child influencer. So the question might be from their point of view. Can you help my mom with her meals? Yes, our caregivers prepare healthy meals. There's your answer, right? We're going to talk about food. We're going to talk about nutrition. Evidence. Now this is the resident, right? Janice cooked the salmon perfectly, right? This is like pictures of food or evidence or a story from a person who gets this service and they love it. They're happy. It's delicious. I can smell dinner already. Now the action could be specific to that as well. Ask how we plan and prepare healthy meals. If that's a concern and I didn't find my answer or I want to go a bit deeper, that's something I would be very likely to click. Fill the sales funnel. The associate has a reason to call. This visitor is reaching out and taking action. The goal of the website is to emulate a sales conversation, but it only needs to do that insofar as it starts the conversation with an associate. right? We're just bringing them a little bit closer to us where they act, and now we can start the conversation. Now, there are all kinds of answers that we can address here. And my friend Justin Rondeau is an expert conversion rate optimization specialist. He's a CRO. And he would say that he summarizes it beautifully. Optimization is about meeting our users' expectations. The page elements anticipate their questions or objections. And the page design prioritizes those answers. It's in the order that those answers appear in their mind, right? We want to fix what's immediately broken and test the things that maybe are ambiguous and we don't know. So he says we have to answer all these questions on every page, right? It's like, who's the company? What do I get? Is it valuable to me? Is my information safe? And I understand and agree with Justin's point, but this is totally generic. And for each of us, every attendee here, your website is different. Your visitors have different concerns. That's why there isn't a one-size-fits-all website, right? If there was, we could all have the same website. So we have to ask ourselves this question: what questions does my audience ask before purchasing? And it's not the same for everybody. I did this in a meeting with a higher ed client. They're a grad school, and it was like the admissions people were there, and some of the deans and the academic advisors were there, and the financial aid people were there, and the librarian was there. And they gave me so many answers I couldn't write them down fast enough. 60 questions that people have to have answered before they apply or accept or start a program at this school. Amazing, right? It's super important. So many. So if you're not sure, there's actually a trick for this, and the internet's, of course, amazing for research. Go to answerthepublic.com and put in any topic. I put in the topic assisted living, and it gives you all the questions it can scrape off the internet related to that topic. So many. You know, how are assisted living facilities rated, or how much does assisted living cost, or what assisted living facilities are tax exempt, or who regulates? I mean, there's just millions and millions of questions that you can find anywhere. There's so many sources for these. Answerthepublic.com is a good one. And if you're not sure what ideally the salespeople and the associates and the people who are close to the audience will have a good sense for this. But if you want to look online, you can find tons of questions. They might be blog topics, but they're also potentially, important things to address on sales pages or the community pages, the program pages. So ask yourself, you should know, but ask yourself this question: what are the 3 things that people always ask before using our services or moving in? Now that we know what we're going to say, we know the message, right? This is our answers, is the message. But I want to suggest for a second here that you take the opportunity to upgrade the messenger or the format for that message. Because if your answer is just text, for example, we are #1 on-time deliveries, fast service, or we're a great place to live, or the food here is delicious, or we have all these programs here on site, and whatever, you can bring your dog. That does not really upgrade the format beyond the most basic. A far better way to do that would be with a testimonial. We're going to talk about evidence. And just to show that, right, you have the customer say it in their words. That's still text, but it's a customer testimonial, because everything that you say is marketing, but when they say it, it's social proof. Put that on your website. You can't write copy that good, right? Another way to upgrade it is to get the third-party endorsement, especially if it's visual. Here's one. This is the best of home care provider of choice. Icon, logo, trust seal. We call these trust seals in the world of web design. They often go together in a box. They often appear at the bottom of pages, right? It's anything like association memberships or awards or things like this, right? Caring.com. There are ways to add these to your site and add third-party endorsement as a visual element. Very powerful. But maybe the most powerful and the most upgraded ultimate format is when the messenger is the customer, right? The person getting the services in their home, right? And they do it as a video. So that's the ultimate upgrade for messenger and for format. Video is powerful because it's the tone of voice, it's the body language. You can see their face. Far more credible than text. So that's an example of evidence, and let's talk about that now. How evidence gets stronger and uncertainty gets weaker. There's actually 2 kinds of evidence we can add, and this is according to the age-old, ancient, classic Aristotle, 3 modes of persuasion, and he names them this way. There's pathos, logos, and ethos. Let's make that English. There's emotion, and there's reason, and there's ethics. Or better yet, there's the heart, there's the head, and there's credibility. Now, credibility is partly the power of a brand. It's partly the quality of your design. It's partly just having a good-looking site that's generally trustworthy at a glance, right? But when we add evidence, we're usually adding emotion or reason, the heart or the head. And this should be very familiar because every newspaper article does the same thing. It's like, oh, there was a horrible flood and 1,000 people were displaced from their homes. That's a quantitative metric, right? That's a number, 1,000 people, and it appeals to the mind with reason, and you know it, right? In marketing, that's usually like ROI or dollars saved or years in business, right? We've been around for how long? Number of happy clients, we're the best-selling thing. But what's much more, what makes it real is the small evidence, the story. Or there was a big flood and little Johnny was separated from his dog. That's the journalism approach, right? That's how that's why we believe in things when we read them. That's how the case is made. And so this actually turns out to be the more powerful force and why testimonial content and stories are so powerful. A friend of mine, Rob Biesenbach, puts it this way. It makes perfect sense. Facts are called cold and hard for a reason. They don't have the ability to warm hearts, which is the key to changing people's minds. But it's not hard to add. It doesn't take space. I'm adding cold, hard facts here on a page that we made. This is our own site. Totally transferable. Every technique is totally transferable to your site. Some bit of data at the top of the page, 41%. That's the average increase in conversion rates for the last 20 websites we designed. Makes sense. But I'm never going to miss the chance to add a story or a testimonial. So scroll down that page a bit and you'll get this. Without question, choosing Orbit to design and develop our website was the best decision. You can feel it, right? It's so different. It's like witnessing someone talking about that. Again, everything you say is automatically marketing, but adding a story like this, a testimonial, a bit of social proof, when they say it, right, the visitor is like witnessing the difference. It feels totally different, right? This is pathos. This is emotion. This is stories. This is qualitative. Now, there's one thing on here probably that isn't relevant. It's the company logo. Although, I don't know, if you work with partners and there may be opportunities or reasons why it would be a benefit to add a logo of a company. But in lots of our attendees here today, the main elements of that testimonial will be, their opportunities to improve it will be by adding a headline. Take the 5 juiciest words out of the testimonial and make it a headline. Then you put the testimonial in there, and then now we've got the picture. I'm going to put in the picture, the name, the title, anything else about the person, the city they live in, anything at all that makes them more real. Finally, testimonials, text-based testimonials are an opportunity to add a target key phrase. Look at that. If the page is about a certain topic, you can use that phrase in the testimonial, increasing, indicating relevance for the topic, potentially helping this page rank. And a text-based, keyword-focused testimonial is one of only a few things you can do in marketing that both increase traffic and the conversion rate. It's good for SEO and CRO, good for search rankings and conversion rates. Anyway, the headline, I think, is one that a lot of people miss and that anyone can do. There's a good reason why Amazon makes you write a little title for your reviews when you review a book. It's because they want the visitor to see that. They're trying to increase the visual prominence on some highly scannable, high-impact combination of words. So these are all ways that we can make our testimonials more compelling. The distractions are a problem, and I want to make a quick suggestion that we consider this. If you want to do a better job of getting the visitor to take an action, it might be a good idea to just remove all the other actions from the website. So there should be one thing that you want them to do, one thing that is the most prominent thing, one thing that is the top of the hierarchy visually. If you have pages with 65 different things that the visitor can click on, or 82 different things the visitor can click on, and you want that to become a lead, right? There's one desired outcome. That ratio is huge. The percentage of things the number of things you can do, it's called the attention ratio. The number of things that your visitor can do versus the number of things you want them to do, that they should be doing. So anytime you want to make your calls to action or anything on your web, anytime you want to make something on a website more prominent, don't make it bigger. Just remove things from around it. People like white space, right? A huge percentage of our clients say they like apple.com, and we ask them why, and they say they like a clean, modern design. What are they saying? They like white space. So resist the temptation to keep adding more stuff to your pages. That takes discipline. Design is about tough choices. That's the job. That's the job of the website owner. So now at the bottom, I'm going to talk about calls to action and specificity. We're on the end of the framework here, the bottom part, the action. And there are studies that show this. Adding a little bit more information, not just create my account, but create account and get started, increases the conversion rate because it's more specific. Or look at this one. This is from Michael Agard. He was in Denmark at the time, but he's now in Vancouver. Instead of get your membership, find your gym and get membership. 213% increase in click-through rate. You can imagine why. It is more specific. Specificity correlates with conversion. Look at this call to action on that same page I showed earlier. Increase my conversion rate. You know why you're clicking on that button. It's not just a contact us link, right? This is talk to an associate about pet relocation. So the job is to, as a writer of calls to action, is to increase the benefits of clicking and reduce the costs of clicking. Because your visitor's doing a tiny cost benefit calculation before they click on anything. Actually, we all do this all the time. Look at a search results page. Look at a busy social stream. Look at a crowded inbox. You watch your own behavior. You are doing a miniature, super fast, split second cost benefit calculation before you click on anything. Understanding that is the key to understanding how to get your visitors to take action on your website. It's because our job now is to increase the return, perceived return, or reduce the perceived investment. In other words, don't just tell your visitors to do this thing. Tell them to do the valuable thing, increasing the benefit. Or they can do the easy thing, reducing the cost, right? So don't just, you could say download ebook and everyone does. These are super generic. I'm kind of kidding about these because I just made these in some free tool. Download ebook or download now and solve all your problems today. Wow, that sounds like a huge benefit. You get the idea. Or download ebook instantly and start reading now. That's a reduced cost. I reduced the cost. I reduced the perceived investment by making it seem fast. It's immediate. It's coming soon. I don't have to wait. So don't just make a contact us button. You can make that contextual and specific to the page, something that says, get in touch and what? And start improving your click-through rates today. Wow, that sounds great. Or maybe it's not get in touch. Maybe it's just talk. You're not spending money. Just talk to an expert. We're just starting a conversation. Reduces the perceived cost, the perceived investment. All I'm saying is talk to an expert about your button text. So you can see that reduces the perceived investment. So understanding that your visitors are doing a tiny cost benefit calculation may lead you to change your button labels or calls to action so that they are more specific, give them more information. And what information? Information that makes the upside seem high and the downside seem low. This is one that we have on our site. It's the bottom of some of our pages. It says this. There's a picture of Sarah. She's asking you a question. And then the call to action says, discuss your site with Sarah. It's only a conversation. Just discuss. And with who? It's not a faceless company. It's a specific person. So if you can, put in some of the associates, that can help too, right? It's a more personal thing. It reduces the psychological uncertainty of reaching out because you can imagine talking to that person. She's right there. And we get leads. We got one today. It says, hi, Sarah. That person already feels like like they know her, right? So our job now is to find and fill in the gaps. We understand the framework. We go from question to answer, answer to evidence, and evidence to action. But are there any gaps or flaws or problems or friction in that process? Often, yes. Often you'll find that you may look at your website and find that there's important information that everyone who buys or converts or takes action needs to have, but you missed it. So that website, in that way, your website is unsatisfying and the visitor may leave to go get that information elsewhere. Or you made some marketing claims that you didn't support with any evidence. Go look at a typical page on your site and ask yourself, how many marketing claims did you make that are unsupported? That website is weak. And finally, if you don't have a call to action, the site isn't compelling. Lots of pages don't have any calls to action at all. You get to the bottom of an important service page or important important information about the community, and the page just stops. It's a dead end. It goes nowhere. There's nothing down there. There's a little copyright. So now what are you expecting your visitor to do? scroll back to the top, scan across all the navigation and click on contact. Why don't you put calls to action on your pages? You know, if there's any dead ends on your website, fix every dead end. We're trying to give this visitor everything in one flow, which is why I don't like FAQ pages. If the F is truly F and the question is frequently asked, why isn't the question answered on the page where that question pops into their mind? This is what Justin said. The job of the page is to anticipate their questions and answer them in the flow, in the stream, in their stream of thoughts, right? A FAQ page is nothing more than important content out of context. I have to click to go piece this together because the information about pets was hard to find otherwise. Big mistake. And similarly, what is a testimonials page except important evidence out of context? That's your best foot forward stuff, right? But you put it all together somewhere else. I was joking, a friend of mine and we were talking and joking about this. A page of testimony, you know what's delicious? Butter. But you know what's disgusting? A huge plate of butter. It's a weird metaphor, I'm sorry. But that's the idea. The testimonials page is like a whole bunch of good stuff, but it's not good if that's all it is. That stuff's supposed to be everywhere. You spread it around. It's like butter. Spread it around. Make every page a testimonials page. Blow up your testimonials page, get all that stuff out of there. Put testimonials on every page. Go look at Google Analytics and see which are your top pages. What are your top 5 pages? Do you have your best testimonials on your most visible pages? Right? If you had a billboard, you put it on highways. You don't put your billboard way back on the back streets. Testimonials pages are rarely visited in my experience. This is analytics for a classic website, and testimonials page is the 31st most popular page on this website. Not good. But social proof, wherever it is, this is the magic of the internet. This is the magic of design. And a shameless but important plug for caring.com. This is one of the places where your audience is looking. This is part of the buyer's journey. This is the path. And paying attention to this here, this is going to be part of that experience where we have to, really bring this to life and spruce this up and work on those reviews because it matters. And here we go. This is just a screenshot of just one of the many pages, we put in here. But you can see these star ratings, right? Stars. They're seeing stars, literally. So the return on investment from this work is very high. Plugging leaks in the bucket gives you great results. So the return on investment of conversion rate optimization can be huge. This is a screenshot. We redesigned our site in November or December, we launched a new website. And the conversion rate on our site, this isn't uncommon. 26% increase in the conversion rate. The percentage of visitors who contact us, start the conversation, become leads, and raise their hand saying, yes, I might need your help. Look at that. So team is busy. We're working hard. This is a lot, it's do this well, and you're going to make the phone ring, and the sales team's going to wonder what happened because there's suddenly lots of new demand. So highly recommend paying attention to this. We hope this framework was helpful. Again, it's all about our audience. Web design is a giant test of empathy, and we're guiding our visitors through their thoughts, from their questions to answers to evidence, and evidence to calls to action. That's the science of behavioral, cognitive bias, and empathy when it comes to web design. So yeah, Denise, how do we do on time? I think we covered a lot.
We are doing fabulous on time, and I'm going to go ahead and take the controls back.
Okay.
Show my screen. Great. Okay, so I'm going to move us forward to the question and answer, and we did get some questions.
Okay.
We had a question about the importance of getting team members involved in this process and how to go about that, if you have any thoughts about that.
Oh, it's so great.
Bailey, I'm going to go ahead and unmute her too. Okay, great. So go ahead, Andy, if you'd like to answer that question about getting team members involved and how to go about that.
Sure. So Bailey actually is deeper into this industry and topic than me, so she may have insights too. But one way that you can make it very easy for people to collaborate with you when it comes to the listening side and gathering important information that your audience may need is to just ask people who are on the front lines talking to prospects, what are the most common questions that people ask you? Or a even shorthand way to say that would be, what emails do you find yourself sending a lot? What are the most common questions you get over email? And then, can you forward one of those emails to me? You might find that there are associates on your team that answer the same 3 or 4 or 5 questions over and over, and they have beautifully written answers in email. They just never publish them. So so go steal their laptops when they're not looking and look in that sent mail folder. I'm kind of kidding, but the idea is to ask them about their daily communications, and in fact, they may have already written something that would be nice. The problem with email is that only one person sees it, the person you sent it to. Is social media marketers have a saying, never waste a conversation by having it in private. Just get that stuff out of their sent mail folder, out of their outbox, and onto the website where it can be seen by a much larger group and help many more people who may have that same question. So that's one way. I'm wondering if that aligns well with what the visitor was, or what the questioner. There's other ways to collaborate. That's a trick for getting insights onto the site by talking to the associates.
And Andy, I would just add, first of all, I'm now in love with AnswerThePublic.com. It is the best ever. It has been a multi-hour rabbit hole for me. But I do think it's a great place to start. Sometimes asking people, particularly those on the front line, again, I love your idea about asking what they answer on email, but it's also great, I think, if you print out, a page or two of AnswerThePublic.com with a few ways that either your facility or your service is seen, and bring it to them and say, what resonates here with you? What, highlight for me a couple of those things that really people ask all the time. And I know many people who are on the webinar probably also work with agencies. There's no reason that this in any way, challenges that. It's a great way to think about gathering people together on your associate team, but also on the operational team. What challenges are they having with those with their own consumer that they need to address over and over again, and that may be a concern actually that people don't even know they need to ask, but are really looking at your website to find an answer for. That's what I'd add.
Great. This is caring.com, and those were both excellent suggestions. The other thing I can share from our experience at caring.com and redesigning our website over the last 7 years that I've been here, not only do we go to the associates and staff members as we're thinking about designing the website, but our product team goes to leaders in business areas and shows them mocks of what they're thinking about doing and gets their feedback in that process as well. And before that site goes live, we talk to the actual users. We do focus groups with users and ask them, what does this page say to you? What do you think this page is trying to convey? What do you think we're trying to get you to do on this page? So we can see before we launch that site whether or not we've hit the mark with what we're trying to achieve. Okay. Now moving on to the question that came in. This is a question for Andy. You talked about really narrowing the content and honing the content. What do you do? And one of your examples had a list of 5 types of conversions. What do you do when you have those multiple audiences? Do you create multiple websites, or do you segment a single website and have the narrow content on each segment?
I almost never recommend building separate websites. It's lower cost, it's easier management, there's a search engine ranking benefit to having one or having fewer domain names. Even if you have if you're a senior living company with lots of communities, it's often far better from the search side to have just one main domain with sections or pages for communities. But yeah, it's really normal to have sites and have digital marketing goals with multiple audiences and multiple conversions. One of the things to understand, though, is that if the site is well optimized, people's buyer journey or visitor journey begins in Google. They search for something in Google, and Google does not rank your website. Google ranks your web pages. So people can enter the site in all different places. Google is a segmentation tool, and it segments all of our audiences for us, partly. It's a mistake to believe that your homepage is the starting point for most of your visitors. In fact, maybe most websites I see The homepage is just one of many different landing pages. So with that in mind, that visitor started with an empty box in Google. They searched for something, or they started they're in social media and they clicked on something. They don't start at the home page necessarily. So that helps a lot. That page is maybe just speaking to candidates or just speaking to residents, or it's just talking about food or pets or just the location or whatever the thing is. So now that page is constructed with that context in mind, with that visitor's concerns, that visitor's frame of reference, that key phrase they used, or that social ad or pay-per-click ad they clicked on. So it's really, if you follow the journey of each visitor from whatever starting point they were on before they hit your website, that what Google calls the zero moment of truth, follow them from the zero moment of truth, and you might find that they are already segmented out, and that the page they land on can speak to them very specifically, and that the answers and evidence and calls to action can be quite relevant, quite specific to them. So it's we all have all kinds of pages, and each page, and there's lots of website visits where the person never even goes to the home page. They go straight from that landing page, maybe to the about page, maybe to the contact page, and then finally filling out the form.
Great, thank you. And speaking of the calls to action, we got actually a question about that. Is there one that's is it possible to have a CTA that's too long, too wordy? A few of the examples that you showed did seem a little lengthy. Do you think that matters?
It's a good question. My design team squirms when I talk about this, because I was talking about like 10-word calls to action just now. And even if that looked okay on a full width, one column website, desktop experience or laptop experience, if you shrink that down for a smaller width browser on a mobile device, that's going to stack and look really weird. So this is going to push the limits of comfort for a lot of creative types. It's a relevant question. There isn't one specific answer. My only tip, though, is to consider adding words that add specificity, because that will correlate with conversion, even if it makes you a bit uncomfortable on the visuals. And it makes me uncomfortable too, but that's just opinion, and opinion is not really a part of digital marketing. What I like isn't important. What matters is the generating demand and converting visitors and being successful at hitting my marketing goals.
Great. And then we got a question specific to the contact or conversion form. The question is it best practice and advised to have a general contact us page that's different than a lead conversion form?
Great question. It's almost certainly true that all the attendees' websites, everyone who's here today and listening, should have a contact page with a contact form. That form is useful for customer service issues, for media inquiries, for anybody who wants to contact you for any reason. And that's just an important part of listening and having a two-way conversation with whoever happens to be on our site. Might be a member of the press, might be a local government official, who knows, right? So that's a good thing to have. The way that they get to that page can be with a very specific call to action on that page about pets or about shopping or preparing healthy meals. That specific call to action can take them to the contact page. Or it's possible to have specific lead gen forms, right? The answer is yes, it is possible to have these other things. Have a lead gen form on each page where there's a small form on the bottom of that page about our amenities or about our pet relocation or about our shopping and in-home care services, whatever. It's a little bit more aggressive. It's a little more visually noisy, but it's also quite successful in many cases I've seen to have a very short form on the specific page for that program, service, or product.
Okay, great. This is a pretty interesting question, and I have a feeling Bailey and I are going to have input to add here too. But what do you do when the answer to the question can deter the phone call? For instance, a lot of people are searching for pricing when they're looking for senior care. However, some of the senior care providers are concerned about sharing prices because of it being deterrent. How do you handle that sort of situation in web design?
I'm glad it came up. We knew this would come up. We predicted this, right, guys? I'll pass it to Bailey and back to you, Denise, in a second. But here's one way to address it, because it should be addressed somehow. If you don't want to talk about it, and I might not either if I were you, you can address it at least by raising the point in the call to action. So if you have a statement about affordability or something, right? You get the call to action can say, speak to an associate about financing options. I'm acknowledging the concern without going into content. I'm basically saying, I got your answer right here. You just have to pick up the phone and we'll talk. That's one way that I know of doing it, and could be successful, but I'm, again, not the industry expert. So Bailey, what are your thoughts?
You know, I think that this is a question that there's really a dividing line. You know, I won't say half think it's absolutely necessary to put the price on and half don't. But again, to your point, I think there are a lot of ways to address it. Speak to us about, you know, we customize every package, we customize every experience. Speak to Sarah about how you'd like to customize that. I mean, that's a long button, but something shorter than that. Again, I think addressing the concern without going into any specifics, or you could then underneath that even have a testimonial and say, I was really, you know, Sarah says how surprised she was, nice picture of Sarah, the resident, at how affordable or how much it aligned with her current costs, which is something you often hear from, particularly in senior housing, that once all the costs are factored in for either the mortgage or taxes and all of those things, that actually it sometimes is quite equal. So I think a testimonial around affordability or it being close to the cost they have, or the time savings for the adult child in the home care space can often get that conversation started. Denise?
I would agree. Another way that this is definitely one of the top questions that the consumer searching online wants to know. They want to make sure they're in the right ballpark. So we recommend at least a minimum rate, and with the additional couching that was mentioned by the other experts in that for a specific quote for you. Or a range, something else that we offer on our site to help them understand. And also we link from that information to ways to pay for senior living and home care, etc. So we're both giving them a sense, some initial information and a range, as well as empowerment around how they're going to be able to cover that. But you're right, it's highly debated.
Yep, and I just want to add again, going back to the idea, because I think your site is terrific in that, is I have myself looked at these sites to see a comparison tool. Even, you know, when I go to a mortgage or insurance, you know, so I go back to what is it really costing you now, the way things are, and what's it costing you to move. So click here for a comparison tool. You don't even have to necessarily talk to Sarah. So that's another thought.
Great. Okay, we had some more questions come in. We had a question, it's similar to the earlier question about segmenting, but the question is, in home care, a lot of the searches that they're getting on for people landing on their website are for people looking for jobs, and they really want to target the consumer. How can they use website design to segment those two different tracks?
Yeah, it's common, and it's a cost. It's a challenge that comes with being relevant, because if you become relevant for we don't become relevant to an audience in search. We become relevant for a topic, and you are then visible to anybody who's looking for that topic. So it's one of the downsides of having a high-ranking website is that it generates noise, because you won't, those are people that you don't necessarily want to talk to. So it's just something that we have to deal with, unfortunately. So there are, if it's content marketing information and you have a blog and the blog becomes popular with a much wider audience, including people who are not in your target audience for candidates or for prospects, it doesn't hurt to have a super popular blog, and a lot of people would want that, you know, if you have a lot of visitors to those pages, and maybe some of those visitors can subscribe, and that makes your brand more famous. And, you know, nobody would say, hey, don't look at my billboard. You know, offline marketers like it when a lot of people see the thing, knowing that only a tiny percentage are really qualified. So that I don't have an easy answer. We're not trying to turn anything off for anyone. In some ways, there's a benefit to having a greater, having greater visibility and a more powerful, more visible brand. And it's partly just the consequence of search. So I would love to get a follow-up question from that person if they wanted to talk about it in a bit more detail. But my only point here is just that that happens a lot, and it's part of the consequence of success.
Great. And there will be an opportunity, folks, after this webinar to have Andy contact you. You will be asked at the end of the session, would you like to be contacted by Andy? So the person that asked that question, check yes on that box. We can connect you, and you can get more insight from him on that. And then there was a question specific to an example you gave in the formula. You showed a call to action that was ask how we plan and prepare our meals. The question is, where do you take them from there? Do you take them to an email to the agency? Do you take them to more text on the website? All of the above or something else? What's the best way to get them from that button to conversion?
Yeah, so from there I want to make that path indicates intent. That click indicates intent. So when they click that, it's a metaphor for the verb we just used, which was ask. So we're trying to just remove every other option and help them do the thing they said they want to do, which is talk to us and ask us a question. So it should immediately take them to a form, if not just have the form right next to it, where they can then ask that question. With filling out a form, though, is far more important than having them click on an email link. We don't really want to put email links on our website usually because they don't track very well. They're not totally reliable. Every time someone fills out a form and converts on any of our websites, actually 5 things should happen. They land on a thank you page that says, yes, we'll be in touch and how soon. They get an email that says, thanks for getting in touch. We'll get back to you shortly. You get an email saying you just generated a lead from someone who cares about your services. And they're stored in a database because you might not get that email. That's the 4th thing. They go into your system, your CRM system usually, or some tool for, even if it's just the back end of the website, they're kept in a database because you might not get that email. Email's not 100% reliable. And finally, the 5th thing is they track as a conversion in Google Analytics, a goal. So basically get everything else out of the way after they click that, help them fill out the form with as little visual noise around the form as possible, and make sure they are tracked. They get email auto response, you get an email notification, they get a thank you page, and they go into a database.
Great. We have time for one more question, and the question is there a process you'd recommend for doing a call to action audit of a website?
Well, the impact of changes should be visible in your analytics. So any audit, the outcome of an audit would be that you make a change. The audit itself won't affect your marketing. It's the actions you'd take based on that. And that change impact, the difference in conversion rate, should be visible in your Google Analytics if goals are tracked and set up properly. So as long as you make sure that you have goals set up properly and that Analytics knows the address of every one of your thank you pages, even if it's just one from the main contact form, now you can begin to look around the site and say, I don't have a call to action on these 5 pages. Let me just add a simple text link taking people to the contact form from these additional 5 pages. So this isn't really an answer to how to do the audit. It's how to measure impact of actions. But in a general way, I would say make sure you have a call to action in every page. Make the calls to action specific to the frame of mind of that visitor to that page. Make the calls to action specific, either indicating benefit or reducing cost. Make them personal. Make sure there's a face of a person on every page. Real people, not stock photos. Don't use stock photos of people. They don't feel real. They're not authentic. And then finally, I would consider removing things from around, take things away that might be distracting the visitor from that one specific call to action. For example, if you have a page about pet relocation, don't link off to another website or a blog post. Just that page is designed to get the visitor to act after answering that one question. So make sure there's not a lot of noise or exits or distractions from around your call to action. Those are just some general tips off the top of my head about how to maximize conversion rates through simple changes to the CTAs.
That's great. And the only thing I would add, folks, is after this session, we have a special blog post from Andy for the Caring.com partner blog that has the formula that he shared in this session. So that's another way you could use that formula for optimizing the call to actions on your site. And there were a couple other questions that we'll have to answer afterward. Unfortunately, we've close to running out of time, and we have a couple more announcements to share with you. So thank you everyone who asked questions. Really loved the participation, and we will follow up. Everyone will get an answer for those couple that didn't during the session. All right, so let's just continue on. We like to summarize the key points that our expert shared, and those are: start with a formula for success. As I mentioned, the formula that Andy shared will be in a blog post after. You could use that as a guideline. Listen carefully for the top questions that your website visitors are looking for answers for. Never make an unsupported marketing claim. Andy gave you lots of examples of how not to do that and how to do it correctly. And put your best evidence on your most popular pages. Lastly, keep your content customer focused. Andy, is there anything else you'd like to add as a key takeaway to here?
Denise, you nailed it. That's an excellent summary. You guys did such a great job, and I just hope that people can take away some really specific actions from this. So remember, it's not advice doesn't affect your marketing, only actions do. So I loved that you made that just so so specific and direct there, Denise. That was great.
Thank you. Okay, so we have one announcement from Bailey. Bailey, I still have you unmuted, so if you want to go ahead and share this really special announcement.
Sure. As I had mentioned in the beginning, Andy will be conducting a workshop very much on this topic, except over a 2.5-hour time frame, where not only he'll be talking about the specifics and those formulas, but also people will be working together in peer groups to really be able to do things like an audit of some general pages from home care or senior housing or skilled nursing, along with a number of other things that weren't discussed during this webinar. So we'd love to have you join us. It's October 2 through 4 in Chicago, and we've given Caring.com, and they've been very gracious in putting forward the discount, the $400 discount right now. And so please make sure to avail yourself of it if you're interested. In my contact information can be found at www.seniorcaremarketingsummit.com. So not only Andy's workshop, we have over 30 sessions with 60 leading experts to talk about everything sales and marketing as it relates to senior care. So we hope you join us.
Thank you, Bailey. And I would just add that Caring.com is proud to be one of the sponsors of this event. We've heard nothing but fabulous feedback from participants. Our team that has gone comes back just energized and really impressed with the information shared at this event. And I really encourage everyone participating in our webinar, if you haven't already registered, take advantage of that $400 discount, use that code and sign up and send your best sales and marketing staff there. It will be worth it. Okay, the last announcement before we go is the next Digital Marketing Academy webinar, and these are free of charge again, will be focused on local senior care searchers and how to get your business found online by those most in need of your services. The featured speaker for that session is Kent Lewis of Anvil Media, and the registration link is on our blog. You'll be able to find it at partners.caring.com. Should you have any questions for Caring.com, my telephone number is shown on the screen here. You can reach me at denise@caring.com. After this session, we would love to hear your feedback. We're going to ask you a few quick questions. You can give us a rating on this session. How did we do? What did you like most or least? What suggestions would you have for the future? Would you like to get more information from our featured speaker? So I strongly encourage you to take that survey. It means a lot to us. We really do sincerely want your feedback. I know you're busy. I thank you for your time. I thank our guest, Andy, and our collaborator, Bailey. I'm really pleased with the information that was shared here and the participation. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.